What's up, Zach here. I wanted to give just an overview of my thoughts on shoe rotations. I hear this a lot in the comment section. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about their shoe rotations, both in basketball, tennis, pickleball, volleyball. Running's a little bit of a different story. That's kind of a different type of shoe rotation. But in terms of court sports, I see this a lot in people asking about their shoe rotations and people asking me like my thoughts of like, should I put this in their shoe rotations? So I just wanted to give my thoughts mainly from the foot doctor side of this and things that I see in my office and kind of pitfalls, but just kind of give you my recommendations on what your shoe rotation should look like, really no matter what court sport you're playing. All right, so the first tip I have for you, and probably the most meaningful thing in this video, I'll lead right off with it, I'm not gonna hide the candy later in the video, is that you shouldn't have a shoe rotation. If one shoe is good enough to play a game in, or a match in, right, then that's good enough to practice in. How many times have you had a coach that says, play like you practice? You're gonna play like you practice. Well, in that case, if you're looking to develop muscle memory, you should at least try to use the same shoe. Now, I know a lot of people need a lot of shoes because either they're practicing all the time, they're burning through shoes if you're a tennis or pickleballer that slides a lot, or you just like basketball shoes, you like tennis shoes. I like basketball and tennis shoes too, and you just want a diverse collection of them. That's cool. It's just that, you know, in the late stages of a game or a match, typically it's the really small things that start counting, right? When the rest of your body starts failing, right? You're tired, maybe you're starting to get a little bit tight, a little bit tense. You know, sometimes it's the things on the margins that really start kicking in. And if your muscle memory is just that much better than somebody else's, maybe you'll hit that last shot. Maybe that last serve will have just that little bit more kick on it, right? To get it to go out into the doubles lane. So typically I say, if you can, stick with one shoe. Have a couple pairs of them. But let's say you've tried a bunch of shoes and like the JV2 or 3 is like your favorite shoe and it's super expensive, right? And you're like, I can't buy 3 of these. You know, I have enough money for one and then I have enough money for more budget shoes. That's where my number 2 tip comes in. And that is you can use something like the handy dandy 2025 basketball or tennis shoe guide or the 2026, 2027 guide whenever you're watching this. And you can find a shoe with the same heel height and heel to toe drop or heel to ball drop. It's ideal to find one with both the same heel height and same heel to toe drop, but within a millimeter is really not a big deal. So that means when you're going and loading for a jump shot, it's gonna have that same action going through that specific cycle, right? Same thing here, the Chi 1 speed and the AG4, really similar in terms of heel height and heel to ball drop. So at least you're getting that same muscle memory. Does it matter in recreational play? No, not really. But I can tell you, as someone that tries on a lot of different shoes with different heel heights, different heel to toe drops, different shapes, things like that, it starts hurting my back, right? After a while, I start getting knee issues, things like that, versus if, you know, I haven't reviewed a lot of shoes in a time, I'm just wearing the same shoe all the time, you know, all that pain starts to go away. So it can cause some issues. That's gonna be more as you get into like your mid 30s, right? Like, you know, like someone I know on this channel. Now that is the baseline. If you can also get a shoe that has the same in-flare as another, that's also good because that's gonna mean more consistency with running. So in terms of something like tennis where you're back and forth, or going coast to coast on a basketball court, actually can have a really meaningful difference in how you feel going back to front. So like I said, try to look for a shoe, heel height, heel to toe drop, and then in-flare. And the last thing, if you can match up, would be the degrees of eversion that shoe allows. Now I know not all shoes on this list yet have them. I'm working on it to get all of them in there. But a shoe that allows basically the same amount of eversion when you're coming down on it is also just, it's going to not introduce different strains as you're playing in one shoe to the next. So if it's me, I'm just getting into a shoe that I can get 2 or 3 of through a season, right? So like I always say, I mean, how many times has the New Balance 2-way line been on my top 5 list? I've seen that shoe as low as $49, right? Like think of how many you can get of those versus one of a very expensive shoe, and it's still a great shoe. Now you might not like that shoe, right? But maybe you find a shoe that you're maybe a little bit more interested in that has the same stats as that shoe. get that and then use those kind of as your practice shoe. I mean, how many times have you heard consistency, consistency, consistency? That's how you build good technique. So if you're going for consistent technique and a technique that is going to be durable over time, that's why you see some of the top athletes in their sports not get injured as much as some of maybe the more, you know, like we say career pros, right? The ones that aren't as elite, because those very best of the very best, their technique is so good, it's so efficient that they just don't get injured as much. Of course they get injured, of course they get wear and tear. Your body's not meant to play tennis or basketball all day, every day, right? Especially on asphalt, cement, or concrete. But the more consistent your technique is, the more consistently correct your technique is, and that does start from the bottom, right, up the chain, the better off you're gonna be. So I hope that helps. Just my 2 cents as somebody that hears a lot of this from not only you in the comment section, but also patients in my office. So respect your rubber and foam, and yeah, let me know what's in your shoe rotation. I'll see you in the next one.